Hi everyone, thank you for watching our video. We've got lots of other amazing online courses available on the Morales Method website.
Hi folks, thanks for watching. Today I want to show you some deep tissue techniques for the back. So we're going to break up the back into low back, mid back, and upper back. And I want to show you some techniques using different tools and also going in different directions, which would be important to know if you are dealing with different directional resistances. I won't go too much into directional resistance or directional ease in this video. I will provide links for that lecture in a separate video because I want to get right into the deep tissue techniques. I really like working with these techniques when I'm dealing with folks who have low back pain, thoracic pain, or upper shoulder issues. So these are some of the techniques that I use. We will provide different videos showing how to actually bring those techniques in, how to assess folks with low back pain, and how to bring the techniques in to help your clients with low back pain. But for today, I want to show the deep tissue techniques for low back. So let's get started. So here we have Elena, and we're going to start with some deep tissue techniques for the low back. I'm going to work in the superior direction. We'll be assuming that there is directional resistance in the superior direction. So one of the first things we can do is start off with a soft fist. And here my soft fist is right in this section between spinous process and the edge of erectors. And notice my body mechanics. I will stack my joints. I am not extending my elbow like so. I'm actually just keeping it nice and straight. And I've got my right foot forward, my right knee bent, and I'm leaning into this tissue. If I need to go in the superior direction, I can just lean into that direction. And also, Elena, let me know if the pressure is too much. Okay. What I usually tell my folks is to let me know once we get to a 6 on their 1 to 10 scale. From there, we can make a decision whether we can hang out at that level or whether we need to back off a little bit. So here I go, working the low back with a soft fist. I can also use my knuckles. And here, when I use my knuckles, I will pronate my forearm. So you see my knuckles nice and flat like so. Notice I don't bend my wrist when I do that. I don't want to bend my wrist like this. I also don't want to bend my elbow this way. I want to keep my elbow and forearm straight. I can even move back just a bit. In here, you see my knuckles work on this low back area. When I'm working here, I imagine working the erectors. I'm connecting to this thoracolumbar fascia. Can I directly affect the quadratus lumborum? Not so much. The quadratus lumborum is deep to all of this muscle tissue. So the quadratus lumborum really can get better addressed when we have our client in supine. So here I am working with knuckles on the low back. One thing you may be noticing, I'm not using oil or lotion. You can absolutely use either one. You're going to have a little bit more of a glide, but I really want to show you the techniques. You can also integrate these moves with any of your Swedish or any other modality, any techniques in any of those other modalities. You can also use fingers, and I like to use my middle and ring finger. You can use both hands as you work in the superior direction. I like to support one set of fingers with the other. And I can ease on up, move up to the mid-back with these fingers. I can also use my forearm / elbow to work this area. And when I do so, I can do it a couple of different ways. There is very much the classic deep tissue way, which has always been sort of to bring your pelvis down, bringing your butt down, and you drop into the space, and then you move in this direction. That's absolutely a way to go. I'm also mindful of where my elbow and wrist is compared to my client's low back. Just want to make sure I'm not on top of the spinous process. Here you can see I'm right next to the spinous process, but not on top of it. Another way to work the forearm elbow is to change up your body mechanics just a little bit, and you can create a little bit more force without exerting yourself. And this entails switching your legs. So I'm going to move Elena's arm off the table just a bit. That'll allow me to switch my legs. I've got my left leg forward, and I can now lean into this same territory. And again, my forearm is close to, but definitely not on top of the spinous process. And if I was working in the superior direction, I could lean in, sink in to that layer of availability, that end range as I call it, and then from here I can slightly lean in the superior direction. That pressure okay?
Yep.
Good. Obviously, if this was part of a Swedish massage or a spa massage, then you may want to integrate this work with a Swedish. Sometimes you could bring your other hand behind and start to do an effleurage stroke as you integrate that Swedish with the deep tissue technique. If I wanted to go in the inferior direction, same rules apply. I'm just changing my position. If I am in this position, it's very easy for me to go in this direction. If I start to move in the inferior direction while I'm in this position, I may start to strain my shoulder, which is something I don't want to do. For example, I don't want to be doing this. So what I would do is move here, get behind my tool, whether it be knuckles, soft fist, or elbow. I can now switch it up and move in the inferior direction, like so, with, like I said, a soft fist, knuckles, and I can start either a little higher up, or if I needed to work near L5, L4 area, a little lower down. Again, I can use fingers. I like using fingers, either one hand or two hands, because it allows me to really get into those small, detailed spaces. I can imagine sinking into the multifidus area, sinking past erectors into multifidus. I can even get into detail that area between L5 and the sacral base, right at the top of pelvis. Again, I take my time to sink into this tissue. If I wanted to use an elbow or forearm, then in a classic position, I can sink in like so. The rest of my forearm is leaning on top of pelvis. And right now, Elena's getting a little bit of forearm, but also elbow. So in a classic position like this, I am going in the inferior direction. I can also go a not so classic approach. I can bring Elena's arm back and use the table. My right leg is leaning on the table a bit. And I can lean in, create that force by leaning in, and then eventually move in the inferior direction. I can start, notice I started a little bit in the mid-lumbars, but I can also start a little higher up. Again, waiting to sink into the tissue before I start any travel. Pressure okay so far? Right now, as I move in the inferior direction, I took an evaluation of which tool seemed to work best for me. And right now with Elena's body and the texture of the tissue, it felt to me like knuckles were a great way to access her low back. Again, if I was working in the inferior direction. If I needed to go in medial or lateral direction, you can see how it just requires a slight adjustment of my body, where I change the direction of my body so that my body is behind the tool as I go in a medial direction. When I'm working on this side of the body, I like to be on this side of the table if I'm going in the medial direction. If I was to go in the lateral direction, I wouldn't just use my elbow and move in the lateral direction. I would probably go to the opposite side of the table and then work in this direction. So again, fingers or soft fist going in the medial direction. I can also go knuckles in the medial direction. All sorts of tools, all the same tools that you used before, you can use going in the medial direction. I can also go with my elbow. Now just be mindful there are floating ribs here, so we don't want to put too much pressure on the outside part of the floating ribs. And you want to slowly sink in. When it comes to this area using the elbow, I usually end up holding back more than creating or striving to create force. Notice I'm also holding Elena here just to stabilize her. Pressure okay?
Yep.
It's really important to take your time to sink into this tissue before you start moving. Even if you feel like, oh, it might taking too long to sink into the tissue, you probably only took about 20 seconds or so, and that's a great amount of time, so that if you start to work deep tissue and if it feels possibly a little tender for your client, then it hopefully wouldn't feel as tender if you take the time to sink in. From here, you can finish up your techniques with an effleurage, however you choose, some gentle rocking, or some gentle compression.